Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're following us on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. For those who are not there, go to Ampire Media, that's AMPIRE, and you can find us there. Keep rolling with that, folks. Today, again, just you and me as we wrap up the August 5th training camp practice. Before I get going, a couple news and notes. One, rookie tight end Cole Turner tweaked his hamstring in an early drill, was able to walk off under his own power, but stayed the rest of the practice in the 10. I don't think it's anything serious, but we'll find out more tomorrow and in subsequent days. But that's why he wasn't out there. And then also linebacker Trey Walker, who was an undrafted rookie from Idaho, a guy that they liked and thought had a chance to at least perhaps make either the practice squad or something. He decided to retire. Finally, two receivers working on the side field today. Yes, Curtis Samuel, as well as De'Ami Brown. Now, again, they keep saying they have a plan for Samuel, so we're just going to assume this is part of the plan, and we'll find out more. If he's not out there tomorrow and you're sitting out 2 days after what essentially was a rest day on Thursday, is really just a walkthrough that you have to say, like, where is he really at? So I think a big thing, it would be good to see him on the field tomorrow. Whether or not it's part of the plan, I don't know, but I think it would be a good thing to see him to let everybody know that this is a steady ramp up period versus sitting out 2 straight practices in addition to having a really what was called a recovery day on Thursday. So there you go. So one other thing isn't really all that important, but it is for me. Today starts my 10th season working for ESPN. It was 9 years ago today that I started working for ESPN. So I've got a new 3-year deal. You're going to be with me for 3 more years. There you go. That's all I want to tell you. So thank you, as always, thanks for your interest. And I meet people out here at camp, some of the fans. I appreciate your interest. And you guys, your passion allows me to do this and continue to do this and continue to grow a podcast during what has been a turbulent period for this franchise. All right, enough of that. Let's get to practice. I want to start off talking about one guy who I think has looked really good, and he's looked really good his first 2 years here, but I think he looks better this summer, and he looked really good this spring. It's Kam Curl, the third-year safety. It's a big year for Kam Curl because if they're going to give him an extension after this year, he's going to have to earn it this year to really determine his full worth and value. But he has had a really good camp, and he had a good spring, and it's continued this summer. One of the things that you notice with him is the communication. He is talking a lot more in the field. That's something coaches talk about as well. But that is, like, before he was a lot more silent with his leadership. This year, it's coming as much from his vocal aspect as well as much as anything. That's a sign of his growing confidence in himself and what he's seeing, and also his comfort in the defense. So today, he looks good. And they're using him some at Buffalo nickel, the role that obviously Landon Collins filled. Not all the time, but he can play in the 2 deep set. And that's what makes Curl dangerous, is that he can play in that 2 deep set. So if a third safety comes in, Curl might be up in the box. He might not be, because if you bring in either Darrick Forrest or a Percy Butler or someone like that, they can also go up there, especially Forrest, I think right now would be more effective up there. But because of Curl's versatility, he's ability to play back, play in the box, makes him a big-time threat for them in this defense this year. He's looked really sharp. But again, communication, confidence, and the comfort, those 3 C's are why Kam Curl, another C, is having a good summer. So let's see where this goes, but he's off to a really good start. Darrick Forrest, also want to talk about him because he's worked in that as a third safety role a lot of times with the first group. And sometimes it depends on are you using a nickel corner? That's Benjamin St-Juste, and he's looked really good as well. So where do you go? It gives you the fact that some of these young guys are playing well in these spots this summer, gives them some options when the fall comes. Now, they got to continue in the fall. Nothing is promised. Just because you showed out here doesn't mean it translates always to the fall. But for right now, they're coming along pretty well. And so, but when Force is in there, he is as a third safety. He can play up. One of the things that coaches love about him is he's very physical. He's got enough speed to play that deep half as well. So that's why if you put him in there with a Curl and Bobby McCain, which safety is coming up, it's not an automatic as to who would be up at, in the box area as that Buffalo, that third nickel, that Buffalo nickel position, the third safety, I should say. But Forrest has been very active, and you hear defensive backs coach Chris Harris often saying, "Way to go, Defo! Way to go, Defo!" You hear that a lot. So, and a lot of times it's about how he's filling the hole. He is physical. He does want to come up and strike you. So it may be that he's got a little DeShazer Everett in him in that regard. But I think, I'll see where he progresses. And we didn't get a chance to see him last summer to really have a full way to maybe for us to measure his progress. Coaches can, but for us to measure it with how he looked last year, we didn't see him. He missed camp with a hamstring injury, but he is somebody who has flashed this summer. But again, Kam Curl, a really good summer so far. All right, so one of the early things that was discussed early in practice today was, hey, David Mayo is in one of those 5-2 linebackers, 5D lineman, 2 linebacker sets instead of Jamin Davis. Now they did this last year too, and it depends on, if your goal in this situation is to stop the run, they're probably going to go with a little bit more with Mayo because he and Cole Holcomb together are better at stopping the run. That's one of the things that both those guys do well together. So Mayo was in there early on for Jamin Davis. I will say, if you're the 19th overall pick and you got that size and athleticism, you better start being better against the run, and you shouldn't be supplanted by David Mayo. But don't discount what Mayo can help them with. I think he's a guy who reacts quickly to the ball, a good backup to have. And I think he also helps Cole Holcomb on the field with his ability to sometimes take some of the thought process away from Holcomb. Either he can relay calls, he also can recognize things. I think it takes a little bit off Holcomb's plate and allows him to go play fast as well. But later in the practice, Davis was definitely in there. So, and again, sometimes it's about packages they're running. If they're going with the 1 linebacker set, it's going to be Cole Holcomb. But later in the practice, Jamin Davis was in there. And I actually thought he did a really nice job in coverage. And I want to talk about that for a minute. I got all my notes here, so you pardon me for looking down, those of you watching on YouTube. But there were a couple times in coverage that I want to talk about. One, we included a little snippet the other day in my training camp report with Jamin Davis going against J.D. McKissick. And it was a really nice move by McKissick. And I pointed that out because I want to show you some of what I've been talking about with McKissick, his ability to sell a certain route. And he's one of the few guys who would do a double move like that in a short area because of his quick twitch ability. What I also wanted to point out on that coverage was Davis did a pretty nice job of staying with him despite the moves by McKissick. And I would also point out McKissick ran that same move against Khaleke Hudson a few days earlier and just basically was open by 5 yards in a game situation or in a game-like setting, I think it was 11 on 11. So, just noting that. So that's one thing Davis does well. And then today, there were a couple of times where the coverage stood out. And one of the times was against J.D. McKissick. And in the 11-11, it was inside the 10-yard line. And Davis is lined up opposite McKissick. McKissick comes out, does not make a double move, tries to make a move, stems, breaks inside. What I liked about Davis, he settled his feet, was patient, broke inside with them, took him away. So that's where you see the athleticism and the speed of Davis, and that's what he does well. Has to become, and I don't want to sit here and say he's had a bad camp against the run, but I do know if they're putting Mayo in there, that's part of, that's a role that he fills well. But I think Davis needs to progress to that point. Where he's at really there, well, it's hard to always fully know because you don't always know where he's supposed to be on a particular play. So, but I think it's something worth watching as camp goes and as the season goes. The role that Davis plays will tell all of us what they think of him in what situation. All right, so let's get back to more of the Carson Wentz. some more inconsistencies. And the funny thing is trying to figure out what do those inconsistencies stem from. And again, some of this, when you talk to people here, the word you'll hear too is process, right? Process over results right now. So what they have to do right now is continue to work on the timing between the receivers and the quarterbacks. And then with Wentz, it's getting your mechanics right more consistently. But what they'll also point out is they'll look at his completion percentage over the years, and it's fairly consistent. So, like while there may be some off-target throws and all that, the percentages are fairly consistent. That's what they're pointing to as well. So right now, they're more focused on what are you doing? Are you making the right decision on this play? Are you making the right read? Are you, making the right call against this look? Whatever. That's a big focal point. But for me, sometimes, like when I'm watching him throw an air and he's off, the coaches do the same thing. Like, why was a quarterback, whether it's Wentz or anybody else, why were they off on this play but hit this one, or vice versa? And sometimes it's route depth, sometimes it's mechanics, and sometimes you might see Wentz maybe doesn't follow through on a throw. Does that affect it? Well, it's certainly going to affect it, but sometimes he doesn't follow through and the throw's right there. So, but that's where a consistency thing comes in. But it's not always one thing, because if it was, I think it'd be easy to fix. So anyway, just a little update there. For those wondering about the return game, I think one guy to watch there is Dax Milne, because he's one of the guys working both as a punt returner and as a kick returner. And if they like him as a receiver, so if he can win one of those two, if he can become their top returner, what it does is it creates another spot for somewhere else. Maybe allows you to keep an extra tight end or an extra offensive lineman, whatever. If Milne doesn't become their top returner, they have to keep someone like an Alex Erickson for punts or something like that. Then you have to then maybe you can't keep 4 tight ends on the roster, or maybe you may want to keep 4 backs on the roster. So I think that's the value of Milne, but he's been working both punts and kickoffs. Not a great day for Antonio Gibson, or at least the handoff game, or there were 2 different fumbles, or 2 fumbles by Gibson. What I don't know is, before you overreact, was it on the handoff? Was it something with the exchange or whatever? Or was it just a matter of ball protection, ball security? I don't know, because based on the angle, all you see is Gibson run up there and lose the ball. But it's in a kind of a mess of players, so I don't have a good angle on. So I'm not going to overreact to. We all know that it was a problem in the first half of last year. Second half, it was not an issue. First half, it was. People on his side will say, hey, they thought it was as much about the injury because he's worried about getting hit because the pain involved in that shin. But today, I don't know what the reason was. I just know what the result was. And what I know on those plays is, on the first one, Kam Curl. There he is, scooped up the first one. On the second one, Kam Curl made the stop, and it was Casey Tuhill coming in and swooping in and scooping up that ball and taking off downfield. So, but that's something that they've got to get that right with Gibson, or with the handoffs, whatever the issue was. And again, not going to overreact, but I am going to point out that is what happened. Let's talk about Fedarian Mathis. And again, I think I talked to you the other day about this. I don't think he's the kind of guy who's just going to wow you in a practice like this. That's not his game. I think his wow factor is more doing some of the nitty gritty work, right? Taking on a double team on certain looks, or the stunts, and occupying guys, and cleaning out on a stunt, whatever. And today, one of the things I saw from him is against the double team, and it was against Keith Ismail and Andrew Norwell, that you want, like, the linemen are taught, you buckle your knee a little, you buckle one of your knees, and then you're trying to angle your hips to basically narrow your target for them and maintain your strength. But I did see him on that one get knocked to the ground, and but I've seen him other times. His strength is definitely a big factor for him. So, and you saw that, like, there were a couple of rushes he had in one-on-ones where I felt like he did a nice job. One of them, he did a nice job, uses the power to take over, to get through the center, but then he slips toward the end, but a nice job using that power. He really is a power rusher right now. I think he's got to perfect, get something down, get a move down that he can use. But I think right now it's power. And I think really what they want him for, help stop that run game. That's why he's here. I want to point out this one play too, where there was a touchdown by the offense inside the 10. And what I liked about the play is the ability to line up Jahan Dotson to the inside, Terry McLaurin on the outside, clear him out, bring the running back out to the flat, and it's an open touchdown because that's exactly what they did today. So Curl was lined up over Dotson, it's a few yards off, but Dotson is really good at kind of coming up, pressing inside. And it forced Curl to kind of cheat inside a little bit because it's there for him. McLaurin clears the corner out as well. That leaves Gibson to coming out of the backfield. The key on this one was Wentz makes a quick decision, quick read, quick decision, gets the ball, nice throw to Gibson in about the 5-yard line, hits him in stride, turns it up, was a touchdown. So that's a play where, again, you have Dotson and McLaurin on the same side. Both are really good route runners. Both sell routes really well. And I think that forces guys to maybe cheat a little bit because of that. And it can leave the back coming out of the backfield in a good spot. And that was the case right there. I will say the goal line drill did not go very well for the first offense. Now, I did ask Rivera about this after practice, just about like really the goal line drill in general. One thing he did point out, which is true, tight ends were really hindered or slowed in this drill. And that's a big deal because there's no Logan Thomas, obviously, no John Bates still. And then you had Cole Turner out and Samus Reyes also had a hamstring. So you're down to blocking tight ends with Amani Rogers and Curtis Hodges. Those guys are not at that point yet where they're going to be clearing guys out or helping as much in there as some of the other guys. But still, you would like to see a little bit more push by that offensive front to generate more of a push and more, maybe open up a little bit more of a crease for these backs. But the one set, it was Gibson going around the end and Casey Toohill chasing him down from the backside. Nice job by Toohill, really good read. Next play, Mayo stops Brian Robinson in the hole. Next play, a bootleg to the left. They want to hit Amani Rogers. Jamin Davis, not fooled, covers them, not there, incomplete. Next play, Kam Curl fills the gap, causes the fumble. And again, I don't know if it was on Gibson or the handoff, but a nice job by Curl. And then it was Toohill scooping it up. So, and then the last thing I'm going to talk about is Chase Young. And there's really nothing new to report there. We still know he's going to miss the season opener. We don't really have a timetable. I've always told you mid-September at the earliest. If I had to guess, I'd say 4 to 6, but that's a guess. So don't hold me to that because we don't know. Because it may be that he progresses by the end of August, and they say, hey, it's only going to be a couple games. But the one thing that you still notice about Chase Young is the way he's on the sidelines exhorting his teammates, and you definitely hear him yelling to his guys on the sideline, not just like, hey, not just encouraging them, what they need to watch for, what they need to be doing. So I think that's a good thing for him to stay involved and to maintain that role as a leader, because that is what he is. And the one thing Rivera always talks about with Chase Young is the amount of energy he brings. So that's it for today, August 5th. Washington will be practicing at FedEx Field on Saturday night. I will have another podcast after that. Probably will go up either late Saturday night or very early Sunday morning. So I'll talk to you next time. Hey everybody, it's John Keim. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, and I'll continue to bring you guests who provide excellent insight into the Washington Commanders. And while you're here, check out the other terrific content on the Empire Media Network, including Inside the Cap with Joel Corey and All's Caps with Steve Wino and former Washington Capital Carl Alsner. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Thank you.